Hello everybody, it's Who Was Phone here, and I'm back to do part 2 of my Dark Souls 1 playthrough. If you remember from yesterday, we didn't get too far, we just got out of Undead Asylum and then explored what little we had in Firelink Shrine. So today, we'll be actually going through and starting to complete the first, real area of the game, which is the Undead Burg and then the Undead Parish, which we can probably both fit in the same episode. But before we do that, we're going to go over to the graveyard and pick up a weapon that we're probably going to be using later on in the playthrough. The weapon over here is the Zweihander, and this is probably going to be a suicide run to it because, like I said before, we can't actually kill these things very well. And there are a lot. So by the time we kill one, we likely wouldn't be able to kill the rest without dying. So there we go. Let's see if we can get back. Easy. That actually went way better than I expected. So yeah, most of the times if you're going for this Zweihander early in the game, it's going to be suicide because your weapons are pretty bad. Again, the skeletons respawn. And there are a lot, including that big skeleton we managed to pass by. So they will follow you all the way back here to the shrine, but you can circumvent that by resting at the bonfire, just resets them. Alright, so now we have this Zweihander. Let's see what we picked up. So, pretty good base stats for this weapon, but, you know, the strength requirement's a little bit outside of our range right now. We're going to need to double that. If I remember correctly, in Dark Souls 1, two-handing a weapon doesn't give the same bonuses as it does in Dark Souls 2. In Dark Souls 2, it, doubles your strength, and I think in Dark Souls 1 it multiplies it by 1.5. So we're going to need a little bit more of a strength level to be able to use this. And you see, if we put it on now, we can't use it effectively one-handed, and we still can't use it effectively two-handed. So we're going to stick with the mace until we get a couple levels. Let's see what the item description for this is. One of the gigantic straight greatswords. As the name suggests, the Zweihander is held with two hands, but its wielder must still be inhumanly strong. It is this great weight that sends foes flying when hit solidly. And it is a really, really good weapon. Especially for a strength-based character. Even for a faith-based character, it'll be pretty good, just because of the base damage. So I guess we'll level up a little bit here. Get some vitality and endurance, so we have a little bit more health to work with, and so that our equipment load isn't terrible. Although that's not really going to matter for the first half of this level. So like we learned from the Crestfallen Warrior last episode, the lift to the parish is broken, so we have to go through the Burg, and to get to the Burg we have to go up these stairs and go through that waterway. So the first enemies that we're going to face are right up here. Bunch of hollows. Not really, oops. Not really too difficult. There's a lot of them. They can gang up on you if you're not careful, and you don't want to get too close to these second set of stairs when you're fighting them, because there's one of them that'll throw firebombs down on you when you approach. That guy, that hollow soldier over there, shouldn't aggro if you just clear this level like normal. But if you do get too close, he's going to run up on you. Come on, man. Help me out here. So he should stop throwing firebombs once you get close enough and just start attacking like a regular mob. This guy will come down when you attack him. And you'll see that the mace isn't doing as much to these guys as it was to the hollows in the asylum, because enemies are starting to scale already. And we don't have any sort of scaling, we don't have an upgraded weapon. So if you turn around when coming into the aqueduct, you'll see this rat, and he's guarding a body. Takes a soul of a lost undead, nothing big. That rat can drop humanity, all the rats can. It's not because, you know, they're human undead that turns into rats. It's most likely because they're feeding on dead bodies. And in the same way that we can get pieces of humanity from corpses after killing them, they can get them the same way by feeding on the dead. So it can be a good source of early humanity early in the game. Although it's not very fast, so that's the only thing. Okay, so you saw that we had this gate down here at the end of the tunnel, and this gate is locked for a while, actually. We can't get to that until we're to the second boss of this area. And I don't think we're going to be doing that today. We might open the shortcut, though. So we come up these stairs, and we find 2 more Hollow Warriors. But they're not too hard. Again, basic enemies. It's mostly... First part of the Undead Burg is like an intro area, pretty much. You see the lock-on managed to find this guy down here. You can go down there. There's ways back up over here. And we will be going down there very shortly. Right after we deal with the last enemy up here. Well, last 2. The firebomb dude. Might as well heal up. Better safe than sorry. Alright. So you'll see we've reached the fog gate over here, and that, like I said in the last video, leads to another section of the level. So it's kind of like mini checkpoints. So if bonfires are the real checkpoints, those are kind of like, you know, another type of checkpoint. So you can break these barrels here and then drop down, and you'll see that this passage is the same one that we just saw from up there with that dregling. So Soul Large Undead. What was that? Large Soul of a Lost Undead. Okay, so we already see the names getting a little bit bigger, more impressive. So that one's going to give more souls than the regular Soul of an Undead, or Soul of a Lost Undead. And we'll keep seeing this theme going forward. The Undead Burg usually has weaker level soul vessels, and then as we get to areas such as even the Undead Parish, we'll get bigger ones. Alright. In here we've got this little building, there's a body over here, and a little Soul of a Lost Undead. And then there's going to be a staircase up here, which leads to nothing, because it's boarded up. This passage is a dead end, and you'll see that that dregling actually managed to come all the way around the level, and then head back up there. You know, I'm calling them dreglings. That's actually Demon Souls thing. They are not dreglings, they are hollows. Sorry for the confusion. You see these guys hanging, waiting to ambush us. Not a very good ambush, because they're not very strong. You can hit them once on the hands and they'll fall off. But it will aggro the guys that are in front of them, so. If you know what's coming, it's definitely not very dangerous. We just got a piece of rubbish. That is an item that has no value. Rubbish with no value. Who in their right mind would bother carrying this around? Perhaps you need help. So, that item's one of the examples of FromSoft's sense of humor. They have a very weird sense of humor, and they make it come across in these games in a very weird kind of way. And we will see a lot of that going forward, especially in areas such as Blighttown, and in some of the item descriptions we get later on. Praise the sun. Yes, indeed, my man. So that body contains humanity, and you get up there via the ladder, and then, like right here, you can drop off, and you're back at the start of the Undead Burg. So that's a pretty useful subsection. And now we can move on. There's nothing in this room that we killed that other Hollow Warrior in. You can get up here. We'll get up there later in the level when we can jump across from here to there. But right now there's nothing we can do. So we'll head through the fog, and we're left in this 2-story room. Over here we have another soul. And that is really the only thing. So it kind of looks like you'd be able to make the jump from here, but if I remember correctly, you can't. You have to make it from up here with the ladder. And yeah, you just saw the dragon come through. He's going to be an asshole. That's actually going to be one of the major parts of this video, is getting past his bridge. So this is the first area in the game where you're really ambushed by real enemies. Although they're not super hard, it's mostly to introduce you to the concept. So you got these 3 Hollow Warriors and then that Hollow Soldier Archer up there. So you can kind of clear this however you want. It's easier to separate them because they can kind of stun lock you at low levels before you have poison stuff. They have jump attacks. That attack in particular, where they flail around, is pretty dangerous to low-level characters. especially depending on what class you start as. So if you start as one of the lower vitality classes, you are going to get destroyed by that if you don't play your cards right. So we can run up here, kind of push over once you get close, and you'll see we have another bonfire. So this is the kind of major bonfire for the Undead Burg. There's a shortcut here that we'll unlock later, and that kind of cuts the level in half, so we don't have to clear this whole side again. But before we do that, there is a door down here we can open with the master key, and it contains the wooden shield, which may or may not be better than one we have right now. So better physical damage reduction, same lightning damage reduction, but it weighs like, I think, 0.5 pounds more. So that's not bad. It's an upgrade, that's for sure. And it is a vertically elongated wooden shield decorated with a white dragon. Wood shields are lighter than metal shields, but with lower physical damage reduction and reduced shield stability. So yeah, the stability is 52, and we'll see how that compares with the metal shields and the great shields when we get one. But for now, it's a straight upgrade, pretty much, and we can still fast roll, so we might as well use it. Oh wait, while I'm on the concept of fast rolling, in Dark Souls there is an equipment load. So you'll see in the middle column, right under our stamina, you'll see the equip load, and that's 12.5 out of 50. So the right-hand number is your maximum equip load. If you equip anything that exceeds that weight, then you can't move, or you move very, very slowly. You can't roll. So anything under that, you'll be able to move normally, although the more you get over the 25% and 50% thresholds, the more you'll slow down. So right now we're at 12.5%, which is under 25%, and that lets us do this kind of fast rolling action with more iframes and less recovery time. When we get another piece of armor, we'll equip it, and I'll show you the mid-roll and then the fat roll. So those dudes with the shields, they can be kind of annoying before you know how to handle them. You can strafe around them, you can get them to bait and attack, and then it'll reflect off of most shields. You can parry them, or you can do what I did for the first one, and that's just throw a kick using the right stick forward and attack at the same time, and that'll break their guard. That actually breaks the guard of most enemies in the game. So we come down the stairs here, and we see that we have another Hollow Warrior waiting for us in ambush. Although his ambush is, even worse than the other ones, because he has to break that stuff before he can actually attack us. Drop the cracked round shield. As you can see, it's much worse than ours. Round and wooden shield. Cracked and nearly broken. Wood shields are lighter than metal shields, but this one has lower physical damage reduction stability, partly due to cracking. That makes sense. But, for classes that don't start with a shield and can't access the wooden shield, it's better than nothing. And here we have our first merchant, the one of the undead merchants.
Well now, you seem to have your wits about you, hmm? Then you are a welcome customer. I trade for souls. Everything's for sale.
Alright, so this guy is another kind of a recurring character. In Demon Souls, they had the Dregling merchant, and he kind of spoke in this similar fashion. And he had kind of a similar backstory too, and we'll see that when we talk to him, but before that we'll see what he has to sell. So he sells repair powder, that's relatively useful. Throwing knives, that can be useful for aggroing enemies, but unlike in Dark Souls 2, they don't scale, so they're not useful past the first part of the game, really. Fire bombs are pretty useful. Like I said last video, dealing with some of the enemies here is much easier with fire bombs. So if you're having trouble, you can buy a few from him. They're pretty cheap, 50 each. Lloyd's Talisman, weird item for him to sell, but it prevents Estus recovery within a limited area. And what that means is that if you throw it at an enemy, it's a consumable item. So if you throw it at an enemy, they won't be able to use any sort of Estus. So that includes NPCs as well as other players. So in PvP, this is a pretty big item for Phantoms to carry. And he sells the Orange Guidance Soapstone, which we may as well buy. So this is the soapstone that lets us write the messages that we've seen on the ground. And you'll remember we saw some of the player messages in the Undead Asylum already. So you can come back there after you've gotten this item. He also sells the Resonance Key, which opens some of the houses in Undead Burg that aren't opened by the Master Key. The repair box for repairing weapons and armor at the bonfire, and the bottomless box, which allows us to store things at the bonfire. But for now, we don't really need the bottomless box, don't need the repair box, but the residence key can be useful. As for weapons, he sells the dagger, short sword, scimitar, rapier, hand axe, club, reinforced club, spear, short bow, our east-west shield, the small leather shield, a buckler, a leather shield, and then the heater and warrior's round shield. Out of all of these weapons, I would probably say that the reinforced club and the heater shield are the best. Reinforced club just because it's a really good strength weapon, and it starts to scale really, really well with strength once you upgrade it. I think it's A scaling, so that's a good weapon you can bring through the game, but its moveset is like the maces and other clubs, kind of slow, has a jumping attack for its R2, so that's situationally useful, but against some faster enemies you might be better off with a different weapon. As for the heater shield, it is, if I remember correctly, the first shield that you can find that you don't start with that has a 100% physical damage reduction and 70% fire damage reduction with only a weight of 2, so that's a pretty fantastic shield. And a low strength requirement to wield too. It's really one of the best in the early games, if not the best. Small metal shield, a standard widely used shield. This shield is easy to use and is one of the smallest shields that offers 100% physical damage reduction. Yep, so you heard it there. I would highly recommend that to a new player that's looking for a shield before they can find like a great shield or something. It is definitely worth the 1,000 souls. He also sells arrows, both standard and large regular arrows and wooden arrows, and then he sells the same types of bolts. Heavy bolts are like the large arrows. I don't know if you should necessarily be using a bow this early in the game. It really depends on how you want to play. One of the main reasons to buy arrows and a bow from him is to cut off the tail of the drake that we will see later. I don't know if I'm going to do that. I'll show you the spot to do it from, though. But we're not going to be using the drake sword, probably. He also sells the chain helm and the rest of the chain armor and the leather gauntlets. So this is better armor than what we have now. It weighs 6 pounds as opposed to ours, which I think weighs like 2 or something. But it does provide significantly more defense, so let's see if we can get some of that.
Thank you.
Alright. Oh, weighs 4 pounds. Okay, so that's actually not much more. But you can see it gives bigger bonuses. And you see that number on the right-hand column, poise. So our starting equipment doesn't have any poise at all. And what poise is, it's basically a numeric value indicating how much damage you're able to tank through without staggering. So the higher your poise, the more attacks and the heavier the value of the attacks you're going to be able to take without getting stun locked. And that's huge. So a lot of the higher level armors in the game have ridiculous amounts of poise, but they balance that out usually by being much heavier. Although the physical defense they offer is insane. So put that on, and you see that is an example of the mid roll, whereas the fast roll, if we don't have it on, is quick. You'll see we get up to our feet very, very quick after that. When we equip the chain armor, we take a little bit longer. We still have iframes in the middle that you see there, but the recovery time to when we get back on our feet and stop the roll is it's extended. So until we get a little bit more endurance, we're not going to use that. But we can find out a little bit of this merchant's backstory in the meantime.
Oh, you again. I hope you've brought plenty of souls. Things are getting treacherous in these parts. A horrible goat demon has moved in below. And up above, there's that humongous drake and a bull demon too. If you stick around this place, it might end up being your grave. Here, I'm not here to chit-chat. We talk business or we talk nothing at all. Here,
Alright, so
what a waste of time.
he doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue for us right now. I think he gets more later after we kill the Taurus and Capra demons, but he's actually the first one that can tell you about them. So if you come down here and you're wondering where to go, he'll tell you about the Capra demon down there below in the lower Undead Burg. and then the Taurus Demon, who is on the ramparts in the upper Undead Burg, as well as the dragon that is camped out on that bridge. All enemies that we're going to be seeing a lot of. The Taurus Demon is significantly easier than the Capra Demon. Both of their areas are kind of not that great to fight bosses in, but they're not super hard. The hardest part about Capra is the dogs, and the hardest part about Taurus is not being able to roll to the sides. But we'll handle that. Alright, so we come to a ladder, and if you'll remember from when we started off in this area, I told you that we weren't going to be able to get to one of the houses via jump without being on top of this, this house here. So that's where the Drake came in, that's where we fought the ambush, and this is the top of that house that we were in down below. So throwing knives there, kind of useful. We can make this jump now. Hopefully I will. Nice. Okay. In here, there's not a whole lot of note again. We can go up here to the balcony, and then over here, and we get our first ranged weapon. Light crossbow and standard bolts. The light crossbow, not a very good weapon, but if you don't have another ranged option, there's really not a whole lot you can do. But I would recommend buying the regular bows from the Undead Merchant. They have farther range, and you can aim down their sights, which is definitely way more useful for like trying to snipe enemies or trying to aggro something from far away. But for now, we don't need the rest of this bonfire because we have enough Estus. And you'll see these guys standing over here. So they chuck firebombs at you when you run across. And that room, if you could tell, is going to be another ambush. You can see that hollow soldier waiting to bust through the door when we come over there. You see one hollow warrior with an axe, and there is, I believe, one more enemy over here. But we gotta go. 2 hollow axe warriors. And this dude with the sword busts in, but we managed to kill the other guys in time, so. Backstab him again. You'll see this little white ring. For the longest time, I had no idea what these were. So, you see it just disappeared, but supposedly what that is for is it boosts the strength of miracles casted within its vicinity. So, you'll see that white ring that we have on heal. So that shows its effect. So if we were to cast this in here, instead of getting the normal level of heal, it would be boosted similar to how the Thorland Talisman boosts the miracle adjustments. So pretty useful, but really you don't control where these show up, so it's situational at best. Another thing inside this room other than the enemies is a gate leading to the lower Undead Burg, but it doesn't open from here yet. We'll be able to open this after we get past the Taurus Demon. Those guys will stop chucking firebombs at us now, which is nice. And we have a house we can go into with a hollow warrior inside here. Whoops. And another hollow warrior over here. So, one of the important things about the Souls games is to make sure that you thoroughly explore these areas, because while I don't use ambushes a whole lot, you can stop a lot of ambushes by just being careful and by examining your surroundings. And here we have a chest, and that contains black firebombs. So those are a more potent version of the firebombs we got earlier in the game, and they are more useful. They deal more damage, and that's something we're going to be using when we get to the Undead Parish. So here's another group of Undead Warriors. One of them is a firebomb dude, the other two are just, you know, just normal warriors with a battle axe and stuff. For some reason, he actually didn't throw firebombs, which is kind of weird. But I'm not complaining. And here are the guys that ambushed us before. They'll start throwing firebombs, though. Whoops. But yeah, you'll see that there's usually ways to get to any enemy in this game. So if you see an area with like an item or something, like 9 times out of 10, or even 10 times out of 10, there's going to be a way to get there. FromSoft is very big about using level cues to show you where to go, or to get you to explore. Another Soul of Lost Undead, and a firebomb. Alright, so instead of using Estus here, I think I'm just going to use heal. Early on in the game, I believe heal out heals Estus flasks, but that'll change once we get a higher leveled Estus flask. What else is there? Another door. Opened using the residence key. This can also be opened using the master key though, so you don't need the residence key for this door. There's nothing in here except a chest down here. And that gives us a sneak peek of the next area that we have to pass through with 3 soldiers instead of warriors this time. And they all have shields, 2 of them have swords, 1 of them has spears. This gives us some gold pine resin. And gold pine resin, any type of resin in the game, it works as temporary buffs. So these effects can be replicated by spells or pyromancies usually. And gold pine resin is a way of getting the effect on without having to have the level to cast the spell or the spell itself. Rare pine resin, which emits golden sparks, applies lightning to right-hand weapon. Affected weapon inflicts rare lightning damage, making it effective against targets which are resilient to both magic and fire. Very effective against dragon family foes. So yeah, I mean, you heard it there first. Dragon family foes are something that we don't have a whole lot of in this game. There's a couple bosses, a handful of drakes in one of the areas, but other than that, situationally useful. But lightning is good against most things, so you might as well use it if you're in a pinch. Up here in this tower, we see that we have an undead soldier archer, and he would shoot at us if we were trying to go down there, so we clear him out now. The sword-wielding soldiers are generally a lot more easy to deal with than the spear ones, because just like the player, enemies can also keep their shield up when they use spear thrusts, so there aren't as many openings. And you see these guys have kind of long, flourishing attacks, which give a lot of openings. There's a chest we just got. This is a stairway leading to the next half of the level towards the Taurus Demon. This one leads down here to a ring, which we'll get after I trigger this ambush and then clear this guy. So another barrel trap, ball trap. Again, if you know what's coming, not very effective. Okay, so hopefully we can kill this guy down here without dying. That would be embarrassing. He is the first Black Knight we've seen. So these guys have some pretty significant spots in the lore, and they are the Knights of Lord Gwyn that fought with him against the Chaos Demons when the Witch of Izalith... Oh, shit. Oh! When the Witch of Izalith attempted to recreate the First Flame. Fuck. Okay. So definitely these guys are a lot easier to deal with at a low level when you backstab them, because they're optional enemies. You don't actually have to come down here. And you'll see these guys kind of wandering throughout Lordran during the rest of our playthrough. They usually guard an item of some significance. In this case, he's guarding the blue tear stone ring, which boosts defense when you're low, close to death. Which is, you know, not that useful of a ring, I think, because it doesn't block damage from the effect that actually uses to trigger it. So say if you were low and a hit would kill you, it wouldn't mitigate that damage. It would just mitigate the next hit you were to take. Uh-oh. So you can actually see, ooh, shit. So you can see that the fact that our shield doesn't block 100% physical damage is coming back to us right now. You can see he's taking little chunks off of our HP with every swing he does, which is pretty annoying, but nothing we can really do about it right now. Could buy the heater shield, but that might put us over the weight limit if we want to use armor, so I think we're not going to do that. Chain backstab's definitely the way to go, because your weapon's probably not going to deal enough damage to kill him at this this early level. You kind of got to fiddle around with the exact spot you have to be to trigger it, Also, something to note is that you can't trigger backstab with strong attacks. You have to use the light attack of your weapon. So, it's a good thing to keep in mind. These guys can drop their weapons when they die, and they're really good weapons, actually. So you got the Black Knight Sword. That's actually super lucky. And the Titanite Chunk. So they drop upgrade materials, and they can also drop Black Knight weapons. And those are very, very good weapons. So you see already 220 physical damage to start with. Although it requires some pretty heavy stat investment, 20 strength, 18 dexterity. It weighs 8 pounds. A lot of durability though, and it scales with both strength and dexterity, more weighted towards strength. It is the great sword of the Black Knights who wander Lordran, used to face Chaos Demons. The large motion that puts the weight of the body into the attack reflects the great size of their adversaries long ago. So you see that we got a little bit of lore from this already. These Black Knight swords and Black Knight weapons in general, they all have the effect of dealing extra damage to demons, which is pretty useful. If we had the stats to use it, we could use it against Taurus Demon. We might actually use it against Capra Demon, but that is a little bit later. So the path leading behind here is a dead end, and the path leading farther into where the Black Knight was guarding leads to our first ring of the game. And this is the Blue Tear Stone Ring. Alright, the rare gem called Tearstone has the uncanny ability to sense imminent death. This blue Tearstone from Katarina boosts the defense of its wearer when in danger. So since we don't really have anything to lose by equipping it, you might as well do it. I don't know if we can actually get low enough without straight up dying to be able to use its effect, especially with how poor our armor is right now, but, you know, better safe than sorry. And up here, past where we defeated the ambush earlier, is the tower that leads up to the ramparts. This door leads down to an NPC. We can actually access him now. You see, we use the master key to get in here without having to have the tower key or prison key or whatever it is later in the game. We're not going to do that right now because that guy can insta-kill us. So we'll come back later when we actually need to. You'll see that message just told us that there's a boss ahead, which there is. Before we kill the boss, though, in these crates, you'll see we have our first crystal lizard. And these crystal lizards, they are non-aggressive enemies that are recurring themes in the Soul series, and they have upgrade materials. Oops. So you see when we killed him, he dropped 2 Twinkling Titanites and 2 large Titanite shards. So those are 2 different types of upgrade materials. We can see it over here in our stones inventory. We have those 2 shards, the chunk we got from the Black Knight and the Twinkling Titanite. So these are used to reinforce standard weapons, so like our mace, this Y-hander, light crossbow, everything that basically is a normal weapon. The Black Knight sword, however, is not a normal weapon. That upgrades using Twinkling Titanite for weapons not reinforced normally. This weapon reinforcing Titanite is imbued with a particularly powerful energy, reinforces weapons that cannot be reinforced normally up to +5. After this Titanite was peeled from its slab, it is said that it received a special power, but its specific nature is not clear. We will also see different types of Titanite other than standard Titanite, so there's more than just twinkling and regular. There's green, I think there might be red in this game. I don't know, but we'll see. And this is the boss area, as you can probably tell from the layout. A long period of wall without any sort of special features, and a fog gate at the end, so this is kind of a tricky piece of level design. If you come through here and then start walking across the bridge, you're not going to notice the ladder. And also, if you turn around, you'll notice that a fog gate comes up behind you that you can't enter through. And that is that happens whenever you enter a boss arena. So if you notice that, you'll know that you're going to be fighting something soon. So if you don't clear out those guys, they'll attack you when the Taurus Demon comes down, and that's pretty annoying. He actually doesn't jump down until you get halfway through the bridge, or a little bit more. And I'll showcase one of the strategies we can use to beat him. That's usually used by newer players. So you see he jumps down, Whoops, oh shit, I don't want to do that. Climb. Alright. So you'll see him run into us. We're going to climb this ladder because this allows us to get a little bit of an advantage on him. You can use a plunging attack from this area. And that is probably the main strategy that a lot of people use to beat him early in the game. Because it's super easy to do. And you can keep doing it. You just have to lead him back further up the bridge and then bait an attack and run back over again. But you don't need to. You can beat him just regularly. It might actually be easier to beat him regularly. His attacks leave very wide openings to take advantage of. Some attacks better than others. That one has a quicker recovery time. You want to be able to try and bait all of his attacks out so you can see which ones have the most punishable recovery times. So you see that big swing has one. That one not so much. Come on, buddy. That one also not too great to attack on. As you can probably guess from his size and his weapon, he does a shitload of damage to us right now. But he is one of the enemies, like the Capra Demon, that becomes a normal enemy later on in the game. So you're going to have a lot of opportunities to kick his ass. Whoops. That was an imperfect dodge that time. I blocked a lot of the damage with the iframes, but I failed to block the residual AoE damage, like I did there too. So it would do a lot more damage, but you can mitigate most of it by dodging. And you'll see he has some attacks that can't be blocked fully by us. They're not meant to be blocked fully. Nice. Jumping attack. We'll use that opportunity to heal instead of attack. I kind of don't want to be positioned towards that that other fog gate. I just don't like how that place is laid out. That's really up to personal preference. You can beat him pretty much from any location. See, that time we managed to block that extra damage. Kind of a long boss fight early in the game because you don't have very much damage. And it's mostly waiting for him to use the right attacks. That's actually a lot of how the boss fights play out in the Souls games. A lot of patience and calculated risks. Anything else to know? Oh yeah, you can roll off the sides of the ramparts, which is probably not what you want to do. So if you can avoid it, try not to roll to the sides. Try rolling backwards. I know a lot of the time his attack patterns can make it kind of hard to roll straight back because of how wide his attack arcs are, how long his reach is because of his weapon. But you know, taking a hit isn't probably going to kill you in one hit, even at a low level. So it's better than rolling off the edge and still killing yourself. And you see, I just broke my own little piece of advice, so... I mean, if you gotta, you gotta, but try to avoid it. So a big part of being successful in this boss is recognizing which attack he's about to use, and then being able to punish him for it. So you'll see, you know, if he has a big wind-up attack, you know which one it is. Messing up patterns is one of the ways that you can die to bosses. Sometimes getting clipped by something that, you know, misjudging distance will also kill you. Come on, man. Come on, you coward. Alright, so that should do it. Alright. Long boss fight, surprisingly. But we did it. He drops... Oh wow, he actually dropped the Demon Great Axe. That's really lucky. We're getting pretty lucky on this run. He dropped a Homeward Bone and another Humanity for us, but we'll check out the Demon Great Axe first. So, another big weapon. Does less base physical damage than the Black Knight sword, but you'll see that its scaling bonus in the left column down there by under the Param bonus header, it's A with strength, so the more strength we have, the more it's going to scale, and the more quality the scaling is. But you'll also see it requires 46 strength to one hand, and that is way outside of the scope of what we're going to be building. You can two-hand it, and you should two-hand it if you're going to be using it. So that means that the strength can be a little bit less than 46. It can be 1.5 times less. It's a pretty good weapon, though. Very heavy, 22 pounds. It says it's carved from the bones of fellow demons, wielded by lesser Taurus demons. This axe is imbued with no special power, but can merely beat foes to a pulp, providing you have the strength to wield it. And that is true, and we do not, so we're not going to use it. We're going to be using plenty of big weapons this game, but that's not going to be one of them. So, over here past his boss fight, you'll see a large soul of the lost undead, and then stairs leading down. So these stairs lead us to a locked door, can't open yet, and then this kind of ominous looking bridge approach. So you'll see that there's a lot of charred corpses, and there's also scorch marks on the ground. So we probably know that this is where the dragon's going to be hiding out. We also heard from the undead merchant below that the Drake is using this as kind of like his roosting ground. Before we do all that, we come over here with this great view of the clouds. We see how far Lordran is above everything else. We also see another NPC.
Ah, hello. You don't look hollow, far from it. I am Soler of Astora, an adherent of the Lord of Sunlight. Now that I am undead, I have come to this great land, the birthplace of Lord Gwyn, to seek my very own son. You find that strange? Well, you should. No need to hide your reaction. I get that look all the time.
Actually, let me turn up the voice volume a little bit. I realize it might be a little bit low.
Oh, aha. So I didn't scare you. I have a proposition, if you have a moment. The way I see it, our fates appear to be intertwined. In a land brimming with hollows, could that really be mere chance? So what do you say? Why not help one another on this lonely journey? This pleases me greatly. Well then, take this. We are amidst strange beings in a strange land. The flow of time itself is convoluted, with heroes centuries old phasing in and out. The very fabric wavers, and relations shift and obscure. There's no telling how much longer your world and mine will remain in contact. But use this to summon one another as spirits, cross the gaps between the worlds, and engage in jolly cooperation. Of course, we are not the only ones engaged in this, but I am a warrior of the sun. Spot my summon signature easily by its brilliant aura. If you miss it, you must be blind. Oh, hello there. I will stay behind to gaze at the sun. The sun is a wondrous body, like a magnificent father. If only I could be so grossly incandescent.
Alright, so that was Soler of Astora. He is one of the NPCs we can use to fight bosses. Some of the bosses, not all of them. The boss for the Undead Parish is actually the first place you're going to be able to summon him. And like he says, his summon sign is a different color from the one you usually leave via the white sign soapstone. Usually, if you're not in his covenant, you'll be leaving down a white one. He leaves down a golden one, just like all of the Warriors of Sunlight do. And we will be joining his covenant later in the game for a miracle and for cooperation if we need it. But for now, we'll leave him there and we will try and cross this bridge. So, the first time you try and cross this bridge, you're going to be triggering the dragon to come over here, or the Drake. And he's gonna fuck these guys up. So if you stand close enough, you will get hit by his fire. However, this first attack he does isn't enough to kill you. Every other fire attack he does is going to be able to kill you, though, so don't try and tempt fate. The first time you come over here, you can make it across the bridge just fine. He won't attack you. And then that lets you go down here, underneath, and activate the shortcut to the next part. Or to the... well, not the next part, the first part. And here we are, back at the beginning of the level. So we'll rest here at this bonfire to restore our Estus and our heal, and then to level up as well. So we want to use this Y-hander, so we're going to need 10 dexterity, I think, and 12 strength. Let me check. Yes, 24 and 10. So we'll get that dexterity level now, and we'll actually get 2 levels of vitality, 3 levels of strength. 2 levels of strength, 1 of faith. We want to get up to 25 faith as soon as possible so we can join the Warriors of Sunlight. But having 24 strength right now isn't, imperative for this Y-hander. We can do that probably after the Gargoyles. Alright, so here we have the first way that you can get past this area of the level. There's an under-bridge approach. You see his tail hanging off there, and you can see how he's positioned. So that's where we need to get to, or at least that part of the level. If you stand here with arrows and you scope in on his tail, you can hit him repeatedly with arrows, and if you manage to deal enough damage to the tail, it'll fall off, and you'll get the Drake Sword, which is a very good weapon early in the game. It has 200 base damage, I think, split between fire and physical. But its scaling is really bad, and it's not worth being upgraded, so you're not going to see very many people use it past these initial parts. This is a safe spot. We're going to use the alternate way of getting through this level in the interest of time. I mean, it doesn't save that much time, but it opens up a shortcut and gives us another bonfire, as you can see right there. So basically what you want to do is trigger his attack once, and then when it's cooling down in that short cooldown period, you want to sprint over here until he jumps down. So when he jumps down, you just want to run straight by him. Then you trigger this bonfire, and when you actually manage to get into this room, when he resets and goes back up to his loft, he'll leave. He won't leave permanently, however. If you try and cross the bridge again, he'll come back. But for now, you can see him get up and fly away. Goodbye, my friend. This side area is the Covenant location for the Warriors of Sunlight, but we can't actually access it right now because we don't have the faith required. And when we do, Solaire is going to be over here, and he'll tell us all about it. But for now, there's just these poor-looking dudes. So we lit this bonfire, and we'll rest at it so we can come back here later. These guys respawn. I probably should have picked up the items before, but whatever. Alright, so we're going to deal with these guys now because we don't have the dragon to deal with them for us. Kick him, get rid of his shield, dodge the arrow. You'll see he'll try to heal. A lot of the undead enemies that can heal will try to heal. And here we have a Soul of a Nameless Soldier, so another step up from Large Soul of a Lost Undead. And we have the Claymore. So the Claymore is like the Zweihander Light. Instead of an Ultra Greatsword, it's just a regular Greatsword, and I'll show you the item description once we reset the aggro on these guys. Alright. Claymore. You'll see a regular thrust type attacks, weapon type Greatsword, 103 base physical damage compared to the 130 of the Zweihander, but only 16 dexterity to wield as opposed to the Zweihander's 24. It also scales better with dexterity, with C instead of the Zwei's D. And it weighs 4 less pounds, so a very good early Greatsword. I know that a lot of people use this Greatsword throughout the entire game. It's a good moveset, it's not too heavy, you can one-hand it effectively, unlike the Zweihander. But we might be using both of them. This larger type of greatsword is normally wielded with 2 hands due to its weight. This highly flexible greatsword can be used to attack in swings or thrusts, and we will see that the thrust attack type is very useful, especially in corridors. But we'll move on for now. This contraption opens up a gate that otherwise we would not be able to access. This is the only way to get in here, is from that side. But this is the rest of the level that we would normally get by going under the bridge and through a passage, climbing up there to lead us here. But that gate obviously wouldn't be open. Another hollow. Our weapon doesn't deal a whole bunch of damage, so we're going to have a little bit of trouble. Here you see an enemy that was featured a lot in the demos, the Armored Boar. So he takes no damage from the front, only damage from the back, but you can deal damage to him with fire, which is why we picked up those black fire bombs, and the fire bombs of Firelink Shrine. If you get too close, he'll charge you, and that's not something we want to deal with. You'll see that these guys have kind of long aggro ranges, so we're going to try and aggro as many of these guys as we can. Unfortunately, that guy saw us. If you're quick enough, you can run by this entire area and then get to that open gate in the back before you can close it, and that'll give you a shortcut through the level. We're not going to do that this time. We'll go through the regular level. Whoops. Yeah, so you see for kicking and stuff, it's probably better to lock on, but we did fine anyway. So we'll head up this way and try and lure him over. First we got to deal with more hollows, though. This is kind of an annoying part because you can get staggered at low poise by the archers. And this dude has a shield, so he's kind of a dick. Alright, we'll pop a heal, and we'll go over and deal with these archers. You'll see our mace isn't doing, fantastic damage right now, so we'll two-hand it for a little more. Two-handing weapons can be done with the triangle button or Y, depending on which controller you're using. And in addition to boosting your strength, for weapon requirements, it will allow you to deal a little bit more damage, and it'll give you a different moveset as well. So mace is pretty good two-handed. You can see it roughly doubles our damage, and it replaces our block with a weapon block. Not as good as the shield block, obviously. And you'll see in the right column, it lists the same block parameters as shields do, and that tells you how much damage that your weapon is going to use to block if you use it for that purpose. So you can see the bigger weapons have better block rates than smaller weapons, and that makes sense. With this Y-hander having 70% damage reduction, that's actually as good as some of the shields in the game. So here we have that archer, and man, he's being real dick this time. So we need to deal with that armored boar, and how we're going to do that is we're going to use a combination of items. So this is an example of item interaction in the Souls games, which is pretty big. We're going to equip our black fire bombs, alluring skulls. Where'd it go? Black fire bombs, alluring skulls, and regular fire bombs. What alluring skulls do is when you throw them on the ground, they will attract enemies. So we can do that to... Man, I really want to kill this thing before I do this. Whatever. So I'm going to throw this over here, get the boar to walk over. And then he walks into the fire. We're going to toss a firebomb at him. And we're going to keep doing that until he kills himself. Because he's really not an enemy we want anything to do with right now. We also don't want to fall off, that would be bad. I don't actually know if you can hit him from this far away. Let's see. Nice. You can. Alright, so that's that. You see that guy that closed the gate earlier is still standing back there. We can open that up later. No way, we actually got the boar helm too. That's pretty nice. The Fang boar helm. This is his rare drop, or these enemies' rare drop. And it is a helmet, obviously. Very heavy, 8 pounds, but better than any helmet we have right now. Severed head of the fully armored Fang boar taken by the one who killed it as proof of his victory, just as the gods once did with the head of the ancient dragon. Can be worn on the head as a surprisingly sound piece of protective gear. It looks kind of wonky. Very heavy, makes us mid-roll, but that's okay, we're not going to be using it. Actually, I wonder if we have enough to use the Hollow Soldier Helm. Nah. so we won't use that either yet. We'll explore different armor and weapons as we go on, and we get more endurance. Here's the intended way to go through the level, or one of the intended ways. It's underneath this whole paved area, and it'll bring us up into the top. But before that, we need to beat an ambush. So you'll see this guy comes jumping at us, and the whole purpose of that earlier hollow was to lead you in here unsuspecting. Something about souls that you should always do is check the corners, examine things carefully. If an enemy doesn't aggro to you immediately, there is usually a very good reason as to why, so you should be very careful. But luckily, not a very good ambush. These guys are weak as hell. Get out of here. So you see that sometimes, occasionally I'm doing 72 damage with my one-handed swings as opposed to the 54 I think that it usually is to these guys. And that is the counter system, or the attack of opportunity system that is common in the Souls games. So basically, you have frames that are marked as like vulnerable frames. So like right after an attack, after shield rebounds, or attack rebounds from a shield, after you get kicked, or in the middle of an attack, you'll be more vulnerable to damage. So some weapons and some items take advantage of this. You'll see it on these weapons. Oh, actually, I guess you don't have counter damage in this game. But regardless, you're going to deal more damage doing attacks of opportunity or counter attacks than you are for regular attacks, which is useful if you can exploit them correctly. We just picked up the mystery key. Resembles a basic prison cell key. The purpose of this key is unknown. It appears to be a basic prison cell key. So this key, oh man, if I remember correctly, this lets us open the passage to the lower Undead Burg, I think. I could be wrong about that. Oh wait, missed item. But we'll see. Over here we see an item hanging from the rafters, and we can get to that by walking along these. It's another soul, large soul of a lost undead. We might actually have enough hard souls to wield that Zweihand, or at least meet the requirements for the claymore. Another fog gate. This leads us into the second half of this level, which is going to be the Undead Parish. So this is kind of the start of the Undead Parish. And we'll start seeing new enemies here as well, and these guys. This guy at the back to us is one of the Balder Knights. They're pretty dangerous enemies early in the game. The guys with the rapiers and the bucklers can parry you. And they also are one of the enemies that have unique backstab animations. So if you turn your back to them, they can and will happily backstab you. Oh. And like spears, rapiers also have a what am I trying to say here? Oh, they also have the ability to attack with your shield up. So you'll see some enemies do that. Pop a heal. We just got the Knight's Shield, which is one of the metal shields. 100% physical damage reduction. Very useful. Better than our wooden shield, but it weighs 4 pounds more, so we're not going to be able to use it right now. Also requires 10 strength to wield, which isn't a problem. So this medium metal shield is elegantly carved and painted. Although it is thought to have been used by ancient knights of the nobility, its defense capabilities are similar to other shields. So it's a pretty basic metal shield. Nothing to note, nothing of significance, no lore significance really. Just your average shield. This guy doesn't really, I don't think he guards anything actually. He's just here. So we'll kill him. We'll go down this passage. This passage is another light ambush. So you see to the right we have a spear wielding hollow, and to the left we have another Balder Knight. This time with a Balder side sword and Balder shield. So these guys are pretty cool. The Balder weapons are very good for dex builds. They're one of the best early dexterity weapons you can get, and they scale very well in the late game. Well, we weren't lucky enough to get it, so sometimes you have to farm for it if you want it, which isn't too big a deal early in the game. There's a couple farming runs that, like locations that you can farm. That'll let you get that pretty quick, and that's what you're probably going to want to do if you're making a dex character. So here the path splits again, and this way leads over to that pavilion with some more hollows. This way leads actually to the front of the church, and I think if we do this right, this guy won't aggro. Okay, cool. And we see our friend here, who closed the gate on us earlier, an asshole. We'll hit him a few times. Come on, man. Work with me here, buddy. Actually, maybe this is the key. So this is the basement key. Yeah, opens the narrow passage leading below at the far face of the Great Bridge in the Undead Burg. The lower Undead Burg is a treacherous place. Do not turn your back on the wily thieves or the wild dogs who serve the Capra Demon. So we actually see a little bit of lore there, and we get a bit of insight as to what we're going to be facing later. For now, we're going to open this gate. The Fang board doesn't respawn, so we can open this gate really without having to worry about it. And I don't think this guy will close the gate again. What else is over here? The halberd, good weapon, spear class or halberd class weapon specifically. It's a polearm, as you'd expect. It kind of has one of the more unique movesets. It has longer recoveries if you don't hit anybody with it, but if you do, it has very short recoveries, and you can chain attacks really well. Also, being a spear, it can attack when your shield is raised, I believe. Oh man, I swear to God, reading's so fucking lucky. So he just dropped the Balder Side Sword, like I was just talking about. You see, it already scales B with dexterity from an unupgraded state, so that's super good. Base damage is really good, 80. 14 dexterity to wield, which we don't have yet, and I don't think we're going to be getting, but or at least not yet. But very good dexterity weapon. The Knights of the Ancient Kingdom of Balder wielded these rock-solid longswords, which are excellent for thrust attacks. Balder was the home of Night King Rendal, but the kingdom was reduced to ruins after a widespread outbreak of undead. So this is one of the items where we actually get a lot of outside lore significance. We learn that undead is something that, as I said earlier, you're not born with, you become. And apparently it caused such a great disturbance in the kingdom of Balder that it led to the entire collapse of the nation, so that's pretty huge. We're going to see more examples of that that stigma associated with being undead later, actually from the Undead Merchants dialogue. Come on, man. We'll see if he's going to try to parry us. So yeah, when he gets into that stance where he kind of holds his rapier out in front of him, that's his parry stance. So if you attack him with a regular attack, he will deflect it and then riposte you, which is not fun. Come on, dude. These guys can deal a fair amount of damage too. They're pretty dangerous enemies early in the game. I believe these guys can drop their rapiers, and they'll also drop their small round shields. We'll pop a heal here, and then we'll kill the last of the Balder Knights that are in here. These guys way easier to backstab than the rapier wielding ones, just because their attack swings are longer, and they give you more of an opening. We'll see that we're coming up to a chapel area, and that is a pretty big looking enemy over there, and we don't want to come at him from this angle because we're going to get attacked from behind. So what we'll do is we'll go back up to where we were earlier, and we'll head around to that courtyard. Oh shit, I almost walked off the edge. Alright, so one thing you can do is you can either take these guys out one at a time, or you can run behind and take out the archer. That's what I usually do. You want to be careful, because while you can't be hit while you're in a backstab animation, they will continue their attacks. So if you're unlucky and they do one of their combo attacks and you get out of the backstab animation at the wrong time, you can end up getting hit by 3 of those attacks basically for free, which, you know, I don't need to tell you that's something that you don't want to do. Before we go in there and deal with this guy, we're going to head over here. This is actually another sort of hub area. It contains entrances leading to 3 separate areas. So this one leads back to the Undead Parish and Undead Burg. You'll hear blacksmith hammer sounds, which indicates that there is a blacksmith present, who we will see soon. Bonfire here, very useful. This is actually probably one of the major bonfires alongside the Firelink Shrine one. This is the entrance to Sen's Fortress, which we can't access yet. That's a late or mid-game area, and we haven't unlocked the gate. We actually can't unlock that gate until we ring both Bells of Awakening, both up above here in the parish and down below in the in Blighttown. So here is the blacksmith, Andre Vestora. We'll actually talk to him next episode probably, because I don't know what the time is on this video right now, but it feels like it's kind of going long, so we're going to try and get through this as quick as possible. I don't think we're going to have time for the gargoyles this episode, but we will see. So we didn't rest at that bonfire, so we can reset enemies. We also don't have cast of heal, but that's not too big a deal. I actually think that mystery key we picked up earlier, that's the one that unlocks Lautric's cage, which we'll see in here. So this knight is going to aggro onto us, and we're going to fight him. So this is one of the knights, Berenique. They're a recurring enemy. They kind of function as mini-bosses. A lot of them don't respawn. There is a couple that do in one area of the game. But for the most part, when you see them, they're not going to respawn. So you can kill them once and you can be relatively sure that they're going to stay dead. However, you can see they take a lot of damage. They deal a lot of damage too. And they can heal like most other undead enemies. He only dropped a Titanite shard this time. They are capable of dropping their great shields. I think they can drop maces, and they can also drop, in addition to upgrade materials, the steel armor. Up there, you're going to see another recurring mini-boss type enemy, the Channelers. They're spellcasters that wield tridents, and they can also buff nearby enemies with a damage boost. That's pretty huge, because the area we're about to go in, damage-boosted hollows are pretty dangerous. Here we have a Firekeeper soul. So if you remember from last video, I told you that Anastasia, the Firekeeper in Firelink Shrine, lets us upgrade our Estus Flask, but we need those Firekeeper souls. And this one, whoops, where is this one? Firekeeper soul. Soul of a long-lost Firekeeper. Each Firekeeper is a corporeal manifestation of her bonfire, and a draw for the humanity which is offered to her. Her soul is gnawed by infinite humanity and can boost the power of precious Estus flasks. It can be used to gain humanity and restore HP at the cost of losing the Firekeeper soul to reinforce the Estus flasks. So, because this one didn't have a bonfire, we don't really need to worry about losing it. We actually want to lose it, because we want our +1 Estus flask. I'm just going to activate the lift really quick, and like I said in the last video, you can use this to get to and from Firelink Shrine after you activate it. But you saw in that item description that it said that each bonfire keeper is a corporeal manifestation of her bonfire, and that her soul is gnawed by infinite humanity. So that's kind of a confusing item description, but what we can kind of take it to mean is that one, it signifies their importance, and it also signifies how kind of a weird concept the bonfires are. So they're used to heal undead and provide healing items to the undead, but they're also kindled with their dead remains and remains of humanity. So that leads you to wonder, what exactly are the bonfires? What's the real purpose? Is there some sort of like darker nature behind them? And that's something that we're going to see again going forward. Each of the Firekeeper souls has a unique text associated with it, including the Firekeeper souls at the major bonfires. So you can kill the Firekeepers in several areas of the game and get their souls. And they function just like Firekeeper souls you find in the overworld. You can use them to reinforce the Estus Flask, but you do not get their souls back. So if you kill them and use their soul, they're gone for the playthrough. So you gotta keep that in mind. We saw that this guy just dropped a buckler. Very small round metal shields. Parry attacks with large center protrusion. Small shields are always less stable, but landing critical hits after a parry is easier. This shield is specialized for parrying. So I believe that the buckler, in addition to certain weapons like the parrying dagger and the painting guardian scimitar, it gives you extra parry frames, which makes parrying easier, obviously, but it doesn't function like overly well as a shield. 76% physical damage reduction, that's 1 point higher than the Zweihander's block, which is funny. Its stability is also 40, which is pretty bad. So we'll see that channeler here in action. So this is a huge room of Dreglings. We actually are lucking out. It doesn't look like he's using his buff attack right now. He will shoot you with soul bolts if you get too far away from him. And here it comes. You see that dance he's doing in the background, and this kind of bluish energy that surrounds these hollows. That means that they have been buffed by the channeler, and oh, they deal so much damage. So this persists until either you kill them or until you kill the channeler. Oh god. So what makes this this ambush would otherwise be kind of lackluster into pretty dangerous. It has killed people before. Oh god, I dodged the wrong way. Yeah, so as you can see, there are a shitload of hollows in that room. Let's see, did he actually follow us over here? The channeler himself didn't follow us, so that's kind of nice. They drop broken straight swords, which is similar to the straight sword hilt. I think you can use them to create boss soul items later on. Ow. So yeah, this guy, despite being a spellcaster, he has buffed himself with his own damage buff. So he can deal quite a significant amount of damage. His attack range also is pretty wide, so you got to be careful when you're blocking. If just getting behind him sometimes isn't enough, you might have to keep your shield up because of how wide the arc is on that, as you can see there. Well, wow. Alright, and we'll finish him with the plunging attack. Fuck you, buddy. So those guys also have some lore significance, which unfortunately we didn't get the item that they have a chance of dropping, which explains their purpose, but they work for Seat the Scaleless, who we saw in the opening cinematic. He is still alive today, as are the other lords, who we will have to see as the playthrough goes on. And what the channelers do is they essentially abduct people for Seat the Scaleless so that he can perform experiments on them. His thing is that he was born without the everlasting dragon scales that make him immortal, so he wants to figure out a way to somehow artificially create them. So for that, he needs test subjects, and a lot of them. And so that's what these channelers do. You can usually see them in areas that are associated with Seath, or that Seath has some sort of interest in. So the Undead Parish, a big place, because he can get undead that are escaping from the asylum or trying to carry on with that whole prophecy of the undead thing, and abduct them, which he appears to have been doing. And we will see more channelers in different areas of the game as we go on, and sometimes in kind of weird areas too. So we just killed another Baldur Knight. We're up here on the second level of the parish, and you'll see this body over here drops a humanity. Occasionally you guys might have heard the bell ringing as we've gone through here, and that is actually when another player manages to clear the boss up above and then ring the first spell of awakening. So that's a pretty cool little intra-game interaction that kind of builds immersion. And over here we can either go through that door or break that one, doesn't matter. And we have another NPC, which is Lautrec of Kareem.
Oh, still human, are you? Then I am in luck. Could you help me? As you can see, I am stuck without recourse. Thank you. Yes, sincerely. I am Knight Lautrec of Kareem. I truly appreciate this, and I guarantee a reward. Only later. Yes, very sorry. Your reward will have to wait. I've just been freed. Allow me some time.
So that is Knight Lautrec of Kareem. Kind of a weird character, as we can see already. His dialogue is not like Slayer's. Slayer was kind of friendly. His tone of voice was a lot different. And Lautrec he's no Slayer, as we're going to see. He is one of the more interesting characters in the game, though. His motivations are weird, as we can see when we'll see him in different locations. He's also another NPC that you can summon as a helper in some of the bosses during the game. So if you talk to Solaire and accept his offer and then free Lautrec, they can both be summoned for the Gargoyles. But I don't think we're going to summon Lautrec. We'll just keep it with Solaire. I think that's about going to do it for this episode. I would like to do the Gargoyles today, but I think that this episode is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to end it now. Next time, we will definitely handle the Gargoyles. We'll make it into the lower Undead Burg, probably, and then we'll see if that gives us more dialogue with the Undead Merchant. So until next time, I thank you again for watching. I hope my commentary was adequate. If I can do anything to improve the commentary or the gameplay, definitely let me know. Tell me if my video settings or mic settings are low or whatever. I guess that's it. I will see you guys all next episode.